I was working in Iraq as a civilian employee. We were going out to visit some construction sites. And at the end of the day, we're going back to base, and I was tired. So I was kind of sitting like this with my elbow on the door. And so I was there in the truck, and then I was suddenly not there in the truck. I appeared to myself as I was in the truck. So I was in my camo army gear. I was kind of tattered up, and from the explosion, my physical form was whole. And I didn't think, oh, I've just been blown up or something. I was standing in front of, call it the gathering. It's like thousands of beings all around me, like a stadium, and I was downloading information to them. I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't feel like, where am I? There was none of that. When I finished downloading that information, I told them that I wasn't going to go back. I didn't have any interest in going back to the physical world. They all agreed to that, but they were kind of in no position to agree or not. They accepted that. There was no authority over me, and I had no authority over anyone else. We were all just doing what we do and cooperating with each other. They were like, well, what if you did this? They kind of asked if I might be interested in doing some other stuff and going back. Some skills that I had would be helpful right now. And I said, okay. Then I blinked to another place that I call the deep rest environment. Here, I feel like I did not have any form, but I had organization. It felt like, the way I describe it is, I was an organization of energy. And there were two other beings there who felt sort of like mechanics, like they were just tinkering and tuning up that organization of my energy. We didn't interact, we didn't talk to each other or anything. I felt like they were just doing their job and I was relaxing. This is a point where I would say I did something like what others describe as a life review. There wasn't any judgment involved, really, or the judgment, it was all from me. Maybe I was just really easy on myself. But it was kind of like real casually kind of paging through my life, going, oh, what worked? What didn't work? What implies that there's more to explore here or there? I was looking for things that were fun. I was looking for things that had unexpected outcomes. I'm an artist, and I like kind of playing with creativity, like you start to do something without knowing where you're going. And that's kind of the same idea that I was using to evaluate some of my life. People talk a lot about contracts. We come into this lifetime with a contract. It's so authoritarian. It's so goal-oriented, and it sounds like it's got a schedule, and I just don't perceive it that way. It's much more free-flowing, and it's much more voluntary. It's much more fun. I completed that, got a good rest there, and then blinked back to the big gathering. We talked about kind of in more detail what I was going to do. And then I blinked again, and I was hovering. It was like I could see the scene of the truck, the blown up truck below me. And I could see the truck, and I could see the four of us in the truck. But I could also see all of this as an organization of energy. I could see the energy itself. I was with two other beings, one of whom was like an old friend of mine. So what we were doing here is I was choosing my injuries. So I would kind of do the equivalent of waving my hand, and I would set some injuries in my body. I would cut off my hand and put a big hole in my head. And as soon as I did that, we could see the whole kind of trajectory of the life I would lead with those injuries. From that perspective, it was hilarious to us. We were laughing. It was like, oh, look at her trying to write with her left hand. That's hilarious. From that perspective, it was very funny. Of course, once we're back in the body, it's not that funny. When you have a different perspective, you're going to have a different emotional reaction to it. So we were trying different things. Finally, I'm like, okay, I gotta just pick them. And I just set the injuries that I felt would help me do the things that I had agreed to do. I immediately blinked again, and I was down next to the truck, and I was with 8 other beings, and we were discussing the things that I had agreed to do, but we were discussing them from kind of more of an on the ground level. Like things look one way when you talk about them with a manager. When you get down on the ground, you got different things that you have to deal with. So that's kind of the level we were talking about things there. And I say that we're standing next to the truck, but everything felt sort of ethereal. Everything had form, but it didn't necessarily have weight. As soon as we were finished there, then I just popped back into my body. And I became conscious hearing an audible pop. Woke up, opened my eyes in that truck. In my whole experience, there was never anything or anyone dictating anything to me. It was very clear to me that we are the agents, we are the authorities in our own experiences and our own lives. Let's say that this personality is an aspect of who and what I really am. What I really am is an expression of God. We're actually much, much bigger than we think we are. As a higher self, that part of ourselves has a different perspective. The way I describe it a lot of times is like that 3-year-old wants 10 cookies. I'm going to die without 10 cookies. I have to have 10 cookies. And you're like, you're not having 10 cookies. And it's kind of hilarious, right? We do have free will. So I think that there are some things that our higher self chooses that we're going to experience. But how we experience that, that's up to us. We can kind of drag ourselves off our path a little bit, especially out of fear. If we as personalities let fear kind of run the show instead of allowing ourselves to trust the flow of the universe and the higher self, I think we can sometimes make things more miserable for ourselves than they have to be. When things are challenging, I remind myself, I chose this. It's going to be all right. We all get up off the stage and walk away. No one's really killed in the play. And, the hurts that feel really, truly tragic and horrific here, even those don't last. Living doesn't have to be one test after another, whether it's us testing and judging ourselves or other people testing and judging us. It can be much more gentle and a lot more fun. Yeah, a lot more fun. It's real easy to think that we're all sort of given an assignment. And we want that assignment to make sense to our human mind. So I'm here to learn about the balance of power, or I'm here to learn about relationships or loss or how to negotiate grief or things like that. What if your purpose is to exercise curiosity? If we change our thoughts and change our beliefs, then we're going to change our experience. So someone who says they want to be rich, but they believe that rich people are mean, rich people are greedy, rich people have no morals, then they're not going to let themselves get rich, because then they would be that kind of a person. If you change your thoughts, if you kind of clean up your thoughts and say, well, I would like to be rich, and I would like to be trustworthy, I would like to have integrity. This is what I'm going to imagine. This is what I'm going to think. This is what I'm going to put out into the universe. Then you're not only actually shaping real energy, you're also beginning to direct the way you act in a different way and the way you make decisions in a different way. The universe is infinite. That means that abundance is infinite. If we stop making decisions out of fear and make them out of abundance and love, what happens?